Welcome to Britain Reimagined. They wore crowns, walked through marble halls, and carried the weight of empires. Yet behind the pageantry were stories of sorrow, struggle, and sacrifice. Today, we bring them back, not as statues or titles, but as people. With AI, we revive the forgotten faces of Britain's royal past, those who lived in the shadow of tragedy. From Princess Diana to Prince John, these are not just royals, they are human stories. This is more than history, it's remembrance in motion.
Number 1. She wasn't meant to be a royal. Just a quiet girl from Sandringham who loved ballet and fairy tales, but the world saw a princess. At 20, she married into a dynasty and into a storm. The tiaras sparkled, but behind palace walls, she cried, isolated, scrutinized, broken by expectations. Still, she found her voice for AIDS patients, for landmine victims, for the forgotten. And the people loved her, not as a princess, but as a rebel with compassion. Then, one August night in Paris, it all ended. Too fast, too young. The world didn't just lose a royal, it lost its heartbeat. Now look into her eyes. AI brings her back, not for the tabloids, but as the woman who changed what royalty means. This is Princess Diana, as you've never seen her before.
Number 2. He never wanted the crown. Born the shy second son, George stammered through speeches and shrank from the spotlight. But when his brother abdicated, the weight of a kingdom fell on his shoulders. War came, bombs rained, and still he stood tall. He spoke slowly, bravely, his voice trembling but unbroken. To soldiers, to citizens, he became a quiet strength in the storm. Behind palace walls, he battled illness and fear, but he never let the nation see him fall. He gave all he had, and then some. Now, through AI, we meet him not as a king, but as a man who turned doubt into courage. This is King George VI, as you've never seen him before. Number 3. She wore a crown, but her heart broke 17 times. Queen Anne wasn't the face of a golden age. She was the mother who never heard a child call her mama. 17 pregnancies, miscarriages, stillbirths, tiny coffins, and yet she ruled. Through gout, grief, and war, she held the kingdom together. Her body was failing. Her spirit wasn't. She united England and Scotland, led during empire and rebellion. But behind palace doors, she was just Anne, a woman, alone with memories of cradles that never rocked. History remembers her reign. AI brings back her face. Now look closer. This is not just a monarch. This is a mother who mourned more than most. This is Queen Anne, as you've never seen her before.
Number 4.
He wasn't born to be king, but he ruled a queen's heart. Prince Albert arrived from Germany, quiet and thoughtful, into the whirlwind of British power. At Victoria's side, he was more than a consort. He was her compass, her strength, her soulmate. He reimagined education, championed science, and built the Great Exhibition, bringing the future to Britain. But behind his ambition was a fragile man, overworked, overburdened, often unwell. One winter, the coughing wouldn't stop. At just 42, he was gone. Victoria wore black for the rest of her life. The empire mourned, but none like her. Now AI brings him back, not as the statue in Kensington, but as the man she called my dearest love. This is Prince Albert, as you've never seen him before.
Number 5. He was born into the royal family, but had to live his life in seclusion and silence. He was the youngest son of King George V. He was intelligent, curious, but struggled with epilepsy. As his seizures increased, the palace became quieter.
They sent him to a remote mansion, away from the cameras, the crowds, and his family. He lived a quiet life with gardens, animals, and a loving nanny. But he never saw his brothers again. He never went up to the throne. He never greeted them on the balcony. At 13, his heart stopped. The country almost didn't notice. His name was not mentioned in history. He was forgotten in silence. Now artificial intelligence is bringing him back, not in hiding, not in shame, but as himself. This is Prince John. You've never seen him like this before.
Number 6.
She became a queen when she was just 6 days old. Mary, Queen of Scots, beautiful, bold, and born into a storm. Crowned in Scotland, raised in France, adored and betrayed in equal measure. She married for love, then for politics, then for survival. Each choice cost her. She lost husbands, lost her crown, lost her freedom. And for 19 years she waited, imprisoned by her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. She never stopped writing, never stopped hoping. But in the end, hope wasn't enough. At 44, her neck met the axe. She died with dignity and a prayer on her lips. Now, centuries later, we meet her again, not as a traitor, not as a queen, but as a woman who refused to break. This is Mary, Queen of Scots, as you've never seen her before.
Number 7. She was the future of a kingdom, young, radiant, and full of promise. Princess Charlotte, daughter of George IV, captured hearts across Britain. In a monarchy marred by scandal, she was the hope. Her wedding was a national celebration, her pregnancy a public joy. But behind the palace doors, joy turned to heartbreak. After 2 days of labor, her baby was stillborn. Hours later, Charlotte was gone too, just 21. The nation wept like never before. Shops closed, streets fell silent. Even hardened men sobbed at the loss of their English rose. Her death changed everything, paving the way for Queen Victoria. Now she returns, not just as a tragic figure, but as the young woman who carried a nation's hope. This is Princess Charlotte of Wales, as you've never seen her before.
Number 8.
He was Queen Victoria's youngest son, curious, kind, and bright beyond his years. But life had set a quiet trap. Hemophilia. A simple fall could be fatal. A cut could end it all. Still, Leopold refused to be fragile. He studied, debated, and dreamed. He challenged his limits and society's view of disability. Marriage brought him joy. A daughter brought him hope. But just months later, a slip in the French Riviera changed everything. He struck his head, bleeding inside. No way to stop it. At just 30, he was gone. His brilliance dimmed too soon. Victoria mourned deeply, writing, "My dear boy, my darling son." He returns now, not just as the sickly prince history forgot, but as a voice of resilience, defying the fate written in his blood. This is Prince Leopold, as you've never seen him before.
Number 9.
He was born into royalty, but chose a life of service, not spectacle. Prince Arthur of Connaught, grandson of Queen Victoria, wore his uniform with quiet pride. He fought in the Boer War, then again in the trenches of the Great War. But behind the medals was a man quietly battling illness and obscurity. While others chased power, Arthur healed, led, sacrificed. He served as Governor-General of South Africa, dutiful, distant, almost forgotten. His health declined, his influence faded, and when he died at just 55, few noticed. No scandal, no headlines, just silence. But here he is again, not as a name buried in the royal family tree, but as a man who showed that quiet loyalty can be its own kind of courage. This is Prince Arthur, as you'd never seen him before.
Number 10.
She was born in the shadow of a crown, but refused to live in the shadow of anyone. Princess Margaret, sister to the Queen, lived fast, loved hard, and broke every royal rule. She lit cigarettes with diamonds, danced till dawn, and loved a man the palace forbade. Her heartbreak was public, her rebellion was private. Tabloids chased her, duty restrained her, and the weight of what if never left her shoulders. Beneath the glamour, she carried loneliness. Behind the tiaras, a fragile heart. She drank too much, loved too fiercely, faded too soon. And when she died, there were no grand tribute, only silence and a flicker of scandal. But here she is now, reimagined, not as the party princess, but as a woman who lived unapologetically, even when it broke her. This is Princess Margaret as you've never seen her before.
Number 11.
He was the second son, never meant for the throne, but destined for duty. Prince Alfred sailed across continents, commanding ships, shaking hands, hiding sorrow. He craved escape from palace walls, but scandal followed like a shadow. His daughter took her life. His marriage soured in silence. He smiled for portraits, saluted with pride, but behind closed doors, grief carved deep. The empire watched him, but never truly saw him. He died before he could inherit a crown he never asked for. No triumph, no legacy, just a life quietly unraveled. Now, time gives him another chance, not to reign, but to be remembered. This is Prince Alfred as you've never seen him before.
Number 12.
She was born in Windsor, but never truly belonged. Death from birth, misunderstood, yet fiercely intelligent. Princess Alice married into Greek royalty, only to be exiled, institutionalized, and silenced. They said she was mad, but her faith said otherwise. She gave up luxury, wore a nun's habit, and sheltered Jewish families during Nazi occupation. While palaces thrived, she served in hospitals and orphanages. Even her son, Prince Philip, rarely saw the depth of her sacrifice. She died in Buckingham Palace, owning almost nothing, but leaving behind a legacy of courage wrapped in quiet humility. Now look again. This is Princess Alice, not forgotten, but finally seen.
Number 13.
Son of King George III, soldier by rank, politician by will. But behind the medals was a man surrounded by shadows, accused of scandal, whispered about in court corridors, feared more than admired. When he became King of Hanover, the cheers were faint, his past too loud. Still, he ruled with iron conviction, reshaping laws, building armies, clinging to control. But legacy doesn't always honor loyalty. His name faded, whispered less in history books, remembered more for mystery than majesty. Today, AI restores his gaze, not to glorify, but to understand. This is Prince Ernest Augustus, as history rarely dared to show him.
Number 14. She was Queen Victoria's brightest daughter, sharp, kind, full of quiet grace. As war raged and disease crept through Europe, she didn't flinch. When diphtheria struck her household, she nursed her children herself. One died in her arms, and then she too fell ill. At just 35, her light went out on the anniversary of her son's death. History often forgets devotion without spectacle, but Alice's courage wasn't meant for applause. She chose love over safety, sacrifice over distance. AI brings her back now, not as a princess draped in titles, but as a mother, a nurse, a woman who gave everything. This is Princess Alice, as her heart always meant her to be seen.
Number 15. He was the royal who broke the mold, handsome, daring, full of life. Prince William didn't dream of thrones. He flew planes, climbed mountains, fell in love with who he wasn't supposed to. Cameras loved him, so did the people, but tradition frowned. His love was forbidden, his passions too wild for palace walls. Then came the air race, his escape, his thrill. But in a flash of fire and metal, it all ended. 30 years old, gone. No scandal, no rebellion, just a free spirit lost too soon. AI brings him back, not to mourn a prince, but to remember the man who lived on his own terms. This is Prince William, as you've never seen him before.
Number 16.
She was the youngest daughter of King George III, his joy, his sunshine. But even royalty couldn't protect her from pain. Sickly from childhood, Amelia longed for love, freedom, a life of her own. She fell for a commoner. Her father forbade it. Her heart broke in silence. As illness consumed her, she wrote letters, held tight to dreams she'd never see. When she died at just 27, the king, already fragile, shuttered completely. Some say it was her death that truly broke his mind. Today she returns not as a tragic footnote, but as the daughter whose quiet sorrow changed a monarch. This is Princess Amelia, as the soul behind the crown.
Number 17.
He was the glamorous royal, the dashing brother of a king, adored by the public, but behind the charm lived a restless soul. A war hero, a naval officer, a man of mystery, Prince George walked paths no royal dared. Rumors swirled, secret affairs, hidden struggles, whispers never spoken aloud. Then came 1942. A foggy hillside in Scotland. A military plane went down. No clear reason, no answers, just questions, sealed in silence. He became the first royal in centuries to die on active duty, and the most enigmatic. Now he returns not as a headline, but as the prince who lived too boldly to be forgotten. This is Prince George, as the enigma behind the uniform.
Number 18.
She was just 16, no crown, no ambition, just a scholar with quiet dreams. But in the storm of Tudor ambition, innocence meant nothing. Dragged into a plot she didn't seek, Jane was crowned queen, then dethroned. All in 9 days. She never ruled, she never asked to. But she paid the price for others' power. Alone in the tower, she clutched her Bible, awaiting her fate. On the morning of her execution, she whispered, "Lord, into thy hands I commend my spirit." The axe fell on a girl who never wanted a throne. History calls her the 9 days queen. But she was more than that. She was a child, caught in a game of kings. This is Lady Jane, as history was too cruel to remember.
Number 19. She crossed the sea to marry a prince, expecting respect, maybe even love. But from the moment she arrived, whispers turned to war. Her husband, George IV, hated her. He humiliated her in court, banished her from palace walls. She answered with defiance, parading through streets, beloved by the people he ignored. When he tried to strip her crown, the crowds roared her name. She stood trial not for crimes, but for being inconvenient. Still, she held her head high. "I am the queen," she said, and she meant it. Denied entry to her own coronation, she died just weeks later. Her last wish? To have "Here lies Caroline, the injured queen," carved into stone. She was never silent, never compliant. This is Queen Caroline, as the crown never dared to show her.
Number 20. She was born into royalty, Queen Victoria's granddaughter, with duty written into her blood. But Victoria Melita longed for more than titles and tradition. Her first marriage was a match of empire, not affection. She walked away from it, defying the church, the crown, and half of Europe. They called her scandalous. She called it freedom. She married for love and found herself in another storm. War, exile, betrayal. She lost palaces, countries, even a daughter. But she never lost herself. Through revolutions and regrets, she stood tall in her truth, not a puppet of thrones, but a woman who chose her path. This is Victoria Melita, as fire-hearted as the dynasty that tried to contain her. They were heirs, consorts, and crown figures, but beneath the gold and grandeur, they were fragile, real, and deeply human. Which face lingered in your thoughts? Which story reshaped how you see royalty? Tell us below, because in remembering, we give them more than a name. We give them life again. And if there's another forgotten royal whose story deserves to be seen, let us know. At Britain Reimagined, the past isn't over. It's waiting to be reawakened, one face at a time.